Hello and welcome to Survivor Everything. I'm your host Liam, and I can't stop thinking about Survivor 48. What a jarring season that was, from the edit, and especially the gameplay for every player that season, because even if it was the correct move in the long run, almost every move made was just frustrating to watch as it all premiered week to week. I want to rank these players from who I think played the worst game to the best. Now, this ranking won't just be from their boot order, because I don't think that's how the game got played out. I think some players that are worse at the game went out later than some players who are better. This is just my opinion. But with all that said, let's get into these player rankings for Survivor 48. Who I think played the worst game in Survivor 48 is Stephanie Berger. Stephanie was one of my accurate preseason assessments, with me believing she'd be the first out of her tribe and not long for the game, and I couldn't have been more right. Stephanie's bossy attitude and high outlook on herself probably does well for her in professional space with her colleagues, but on Survivor, around other players, it's isolating and a little demeaning. I thought she might come off as a little too much for her tribe, but Stephanie actually did the opposite of too much and instead did nothing at all. It's actually just the start of the theme of people sitting on their hands and waiting out the game to end. Stephanie is mistaken though, with more active players than Sai edging out the win here, causing Stephanie to be the first boot of the season. Stephanie, unlike the other players that do this, are mistaken though, with the more active players than Sai edging out a win here, causing Stephanie to be the first boot of the season. Who I consider to be the worst player next to the first boot is Charity Nelms, someone who even makes it to the merge but never officially joins the new merge tribe. It's odd putting someone who gets voted out 5 rounds after someone like Stephanie this low as well, but that's just because Charity never had to go tribal council all throughout the pre-merge. On Charity's starting tribe, she was on the bottom of Siva, where their only real ally being in Mitch, and this puts Mitch as the second on the bottom of the totem pole for Siva due to this. People like David get worried about Charity and how she comes across immediately, and it seems like it'll be a 4-2 vote to get rid of Charity if the original Siva tribe goes to tribal council pre-merge. During the swap portion of the game, Charity is somewhat swap screwed by being put onto the new Logi tribe with all new players except for David, the main person from original Siva campaigning to get rid of her. And to make it worse, Eva and Mary flocked to David immediately as well. Now 3 of the new Logis have formed an alliance, and Star, who was on the bottom again, stays close to Eva this time, now making it a 4-person voting block if they go to tribal council pre-merge, leaving Charity completely on the bottom again on our new tribe. When the merge tribe happens and everyone is in limbo but Kyle, Charity still manages not to be able to truly connect with anyone or gain their trust, other than Mitch of course, and he is obviously the only one blindsided when she's voted out. Charity leaves in a 7-5 to 1 vote split, with 11 of the 13 players splitting the majority of the votes on Charity, and the rest on a say as a decoy/backup plan in case Charity plays some advantage or shot in the dark immunity idol. Charity on 3 tribes found herself at the bottom all 3 times, and she only got lucky during her pre-merge tribes kept her from going to tribal council the entire time, since there was no way she was going to be safe at the first one she went to. I debated on putting this person a little worse than Charity, but I'll have Kevin place just slightly higher. I'll admit that Kevin's immediate boot did shock me, but I suppose it shouldn't have. During the Premier Marooning Challenge, Kevin gets his shoulder dislocated and has it pop back in place by medical coming in to do it for him. This is even slightly shown in the trailer for the season, with Jeff screaming for medical, with it never appearing in the show. I bring this up because, since the medical scene was cut from the final edit of the show, it was clear Kevin had no real significance to the overall story, but I still didn't think that he'd be gone so early. Kevin plays an aggressive game to his detriment, causing slight paranoia between his closest allies in Cedric and Justin, who consider voting Kevin out now, and as Alliance would say, crumbles immediately too. Kevin is the muscular athletic guy for his tribe, and he is still the target this round after losing 2 immunity challenges in a row when they still desperately need him. After the initial first boot of Steph and the other target being Sai in the first round, this second round should easily be Say or Mary, with the 3 boys sticking together, but Kevin's overplaying and potentially due to his shoulder injury, Kevin gets himself voted out second of the game. The reason why I debated putting him before Charity was the fact that he had actively blown up his spot to be in such a good position then lose afterwards, while Charity never really shot herself in the foot as bad as Kevin did, but at least Kevin was able to establish something to self-destruct, while Charity never got anything going while playing the game 3 times longer than Kevin. I hope you guys wanted a steaming hot ass of a player delivered fresh to your door in the form of Justin Piope, the pizza boy. I wish I could say Justin is like pizza. Even when it's bad, it's alright, but that just wouldn't be true. I'll give Justin this, that he is one of the most twist-screwed players in production history, and his day gets ruined by a shot in the dark as well, which is like a 16% chance to hit. A lot of bad luck had to happen for Justin to find himself being voted out this early, but his boot round did also leave a lot to be desired. Justin loses his vote in his boot round due to a game of Yahtzee, and it's unfortunate for him, but he also loses the trust in his closest ally in Cedric when he lies to him saying he can vote that night. I'll give credit to Justin that he realizes how chaotic Cedric can be, and how quick his mind can change on a vote when there's such little time before it, just like how he did with the previous Kevin boot the episode prior. So Justin doesn't want to spring this on Cedric so close to Tribal Council and screw himself over. This does seem to be Justin's undoing though, with Mary shot in the dark working at Tribal Council, and when the revote occurs, Justin isn't able to vote, and Say and Cedric tie, until a third revote when Cedric finally votes out Justin for being betrayed that the vote didn't go through properly. Justin plays his final round poorly, since even with his vote gone, Justin has an easy play of scooping Mary from the bottom and having her and Cedric vote 2-1 on Say, and Say votes for Mary, keeping Justin's name off the parchment completely, but he gets himself voted out instead. Up next is another player who made it post-merge, but only due to the lack of attending pre-merge tribal councils, and that's Chrissy Starnowski. Chrissy barely got any screen time, but when she did, it was never anything that was actually good for her character or good for her game. Chrissy is on the bottom of Original Siva, just above Chrissy and Mitch, but not that high up from them. And though she is in the main power structure for post-swap Vula, she only makes the play that Cedric tells her to do. In doing this as well, she leaves her other Original Siva tribe mate Mitch in the dark, and he votes incorrectly that round. If the merge comes any later and post-swap Siva goes back to Tribal Council, Mitch might not be on her side anymore. When it comes to post-merge, Chrissy just can't keep her mouth shut at Tribal Council, and though she is probably already the contestant's vote before going there in her boot round, her actions at Tribal Council didn't help. Chrissy is just a weak player in challenges and a social player that will always get dragged and cut whenever the other players want to. She made it further than other people on the list so far, but that's not saying much. A similar player to Chrissy in a sense of a minimal edit with minimal power, and that's Bianca Rose. Bianca, just like Chrissy, was most likely not going to be the first boot of the original Logi tribe if they had gone to Tribal Council during the pre-merge. But also like Chrissy, it would be a debate if she would be the second or third one gone. Bianca did not get a lot of screen time, and maybe that's why we don't connect with her when she eventually gets swap screwed and then screwed by production during the journeys that we all love. Bianca was at the bottom of both the tribes that she played on, and she never even got to vote for the entire time she played. Bianca is also similar to Justin, as they were both twist screwed by a journey, and then both proceeded to be eliminated after. I put her above Justin though, since he was at least on an established tribe and still should have had the power there, while Bianca was voted out on a swap tribe that she was screwed on, where it was 2 Siva, 2 Vula, and then the single logging in herself, and then she would also lose her vote to boot that round. Bianca could have played this round better as well, and could have forced a tie out of confusion and go to rocks, and just like Justin, not having her vote means that she has to be the target this round. Unlike Justin though, she had no power set up here, so it was a lot harder for her to do so. Because of that, and there's similar situations, I had to put Bianca a little bit higher. This next player is someone who I wanted to make much further in the game, and someone who I wanted to put much further up on this list, but I simply can't, and that's Thomas Krittinger. Thomas seemed to be such a savvy player with a lot going on in his original tribe. Thomas gets himself situated in the core of the original Logi with him, Shaheen, and Joe all forming the California Girls Alliance right off the bat. And both Joe and Thomas have either Eva or Bianca that they can bring in to make up the majority 4-person alliance on a 6-person starting tribe. Everything here is going well game-wise, and there's even a secret coup that could be in the works if Thomas needs to get rid of Eva to secure Bianca and the California Girls Alliance. We also get content of Star, the person at the bottom of the tribe, sharing info and clues about their Beware advantage, and the first thing that Thomas thinks to do is throw the advantage in the ocean so Star can't get it back. Thomas, the secret, conniving, dirty player, seemed to be the antithesis of the loyalty and kumbaya vibes of the original Logi tribe, and I thought that was going to be what propels Thomas to win the game, but instead, the edit was showing now this behavior is how he was the first one gone after the swap. And that swap is where Thomas' game really takes a tank from where it was at. Thomas, after Journey, has gained a vote steal advantage and has kept it a secret from everybody, doing a good job about doing it. Thomas is really hoping to play this advantage during the individual portion of the game, or maybe at the merge, since he has never mentioned once about playing it during the swap portion of the game. The swap is favorable to Thomas, putting Joe, Shaheen, and him, all 3 main members of the California Girl Alliance, on the same swap tribe against only 2 original Siva members to oppose them. Numbers-wise, original Logi has the clear advantage. But Camilla's gone on a journey and there's ways to get idols around camp, so original Logi should have been more paranoid about advantages and idols. Shaheen and Thomas go through Kyle's bag right in front of Camilla, clearly stating Kyle as the target this round, so it's easy for Kyle and Camilla to know which one of them to play the immunity idol that they share between themselves, and at that night, Kyle plays the immunity idol, that tribal, negating 3 votes and sending Thomas home. The worst part about it all, though, is the fact that with the vote steal that Thomas had, all Thomas had to do was play his advantage, take away one of the votes, split the votes with 2 on Kyle and 2 on Camilla, and even if they play an idol, one of them is sent home, or if they play the idol and the extra vote that Camilla had, it becomes a tie vote, and on the re-vote, the one who isn't safe is going home. Thomas had the ability to safely secure himself onto the next round with no contention if he had just played his advantage, And that's why I can't put him up any further, even though he had more strategy, agency, and social awareness than most people on this cast. Up next is the clear villain of the season and the talk of the pre-merge, and that's Sei Healy. Sei came running out the gate with her aggressive gameplay style, with her tribe going to Tribal Council 3 times in a row, and she went to 4 of the 5 pre-merge Tribal Councils in total as well. Sei was constantly a target due to this game style, but it's also a tool that kept her around longer than the other players who were sent home before her. For Tribal Council, she went up against Stephanie, and the edit made it clear that Sei approaching people and forcing allies is what got her through the round. In the very next round, Sei is the target of Kevin, but is able to get word of this and turns it around on him. Then the following round after that, Mary is the target, but is saved through the shot in the dark, and Cedric sides with Justin, planning on sending Sei home. This round is both her worst and best round, since she wasn't the initial target, but it was clear where she sat on the totem pole once Mary became safe. Then she's only saved due to game mechanic circumstances, with Justin losing his vote by being twist screwed, and not being able to vote with Cedric and getting Sei out, causing another revote due to a tie. Sei admittedly is impressive in this moment, convincing Cedric, a player who just wrote her name down, to save her instead of Justin, the guy Cedric was just siding with. This is amazing on Sei's part, and she's able to convince Cedric that she will change in this game and become friends with Mary, though her real plan is to get him out as soon as possible. On the swap tribe, where she has swapped with Cedric on the new Logi tribe, Sei is able to survive that round as well, even though she is the original target before Bianca is sent home due to the same twist-screwed shenanigans that hurt Justin's game as well. And Sei survives the following round as well, against Charity, most likely due to the fact that players didn't want all original 6 SIVA members together at the merge, but it was still a 7-5 vote for Charity and Sei, and everyone was okay with Sei going home if Charity had an idol or successful shot in the dark. It's impressive how Sei used her villain role and aggressive game style to strong on her way to pass a few rounds, but it's a negative since Sei was always the second person on the chopping block, no matter what tribe she seemed to be on. I thought we didn't get purple edits anymore in the new era, but I guess I was proved wrong with Star to me. Now I know Star wasn't fully purpled or anything, we got to hear her rap, and once or twice think out loud about her strategy, but let's be honest. Who is Star and what did she do to impact the season? Star did have a purple edit on the original Logi tribe though, only getting content due to the fact that she was the one who found the Beware advantage, so they had to give her screen time. But I'm sure they were happy with this because at least Star asked everyone for help to open the advantage, which gave the more interesting players more screen time themselves. Other than that though, she gets nothing and is clowned on the whole time. Star is then swapped and is at least in a better position than Charity, so she won't be the first one gone unlike she would have been on the original Logi, but she still is on the bottom, which is why Charity is coming to her on the swap tribe. At the merge, Star is part of the majority who votes out Charity, and then there's part of the majority that votes out Sei during the tribe split tribal, and that's it. The rest of the players discard her right after that, with her being targeted by Mitch and Camilla during even the Mario Party game, trying to force Star to lose her vote on the journey, since they don't care if she's with them or not, and they don't need her as a voting block. And then during that same round, we see this because the majority votes out Chrissy without Star. And then the following round, Star and Mitch seem to be getting closer, and due to a lopsided edit this season, we don't see why Star votes for Mitch that round with 2 other people, but Star is tricked by the majority to vote for Mitch, her ally, while the majority votes for David to be sent out to the jury, and now since Star is definitely part of the minority, Star is sent to the jury the following next round because she can't even get people like Mitch to side with her. Like, one episode, Mitch and her are friends, and the very next episode, Mitch is saying that she's the biggest joke of the game and he would never work with her. This is stuff that we should be seeing. Star outlasted a lot of other players, and I don't think that she actually blew up her game like others had, but she was the initial target on the original Logi tribe, and that tribe just never went to Tribal Council, so she got lucky there. Star also had no agency over her own game, never really getting any connections going, and was always a sitting duck waiting to be picked off, and I can't put her up any higher. This next player is a fallen king and a sleeper player, and I truly believe that, and that's Cedric McFadden. What a powerhouse this guy was during the pre-merge, and I'm not joking. This guy ran the original Vula tribe, being on the right side of the vote every single time because he controlled the vote every single time. He and the boys side to side would say, then Cedric was able to convince Justin to vote out Kevin the following round, even with Justin arguing that Kevin is better to keep for tribal challenges. That's actually a really good character moment I like from Cedric, where when Justin's arguing about the challenges, Cedric puts his hand on his shoulder and is like, you still think we're gonna win challenges? Oh, God bless your soul. I think that's a great character moment from him. And on the third round with Justin, Cedric controls the vote, and it's only due to a twist in game mechanics that both Cedric's original targets stay in the game, and he still gets full power on the third revote on who goes home, and it can't be him. Cedric's profession and demeanor just comes off as respectable, loyal, and easy to work with, and this gave him the social capital to run the original Vula tribe. On the swap tribe, He has the power on who goes home between either Bianca or Sei, and Bianca only trusts Cedric this round too, feeding the man she just met with info that also completely kills her game and has Cedric running the charge to take her out. Cedric isn't even close to being a target at the merge part of the game, and I believe he's only voted out due to being swap screwed. If Survivor didn't have this weird tribe swap post-merge or two people had to get voted out the same night due to it being 26 days, then Cedric would have stayed in the game, but instead it's put onto a swap tribe of Shaheen, Kyle, David, and Mary, all people who are part of the Strong Six, and Camilla, who is secretly a duo alliance in Kyle, so she is also voting with the Strong Six. Cedric was swap screwed and had no way out of such an easy vote for the Strong Six, and was sent home prematurely. This player, I'm shocked, is a 5th place finisher, but they are, and that's Mitch Guerra. Mitch literally did nothing in this game, and he wasn't a target either. Mitch's game is just a story of a weak player who floated the whole time. He was second on the bottom in the original Siva tribe, with him making an alliance with Charity, the first boot for Siva, putting him in a horrible position. During the Bianca boot, after the swap, Cedric lets Chrissy know about Bianca playing them, and Bianca losing her vote, but he doesn't tell Mitch, and Mitch votes incorrectly that round. It is speculated that Mitch might have been talking in production, having his confessionals and such, and Cedric didn't have time to inform him as well, but that's all speculation, it's not on the show. Mitch then proceeds just to vote with the majority, never trying to break them up, and always helping to take out the targets that they wanted, being a pseudo-member of the Strong Six and original Logi 3, but always planning on being the first one out of those groups. Mitch just gets lucky that his passive playstyle doesn't send alarms to anyone like Joe or Kyle, so Mitch is never a target until players finally decide to pull the trigger when they just don't want him anymore, and he is voted off like a firing squad shooting at him. Mitch survived long, but it wasn't his choice. A much stronger version of a player like Mitch is a player like Mary. Mary was on the bottom of her tribe since the beginning, but she fought her way and wasn't even voted out pre-merge. It's a knock against her game that the shot in the dark had to be something that saved her, but she quickly fixes her game once the swap happens. She forms an alliance with David, and David forms an alliance with Eva as well, with the proxy as star, so for the first time, Mary is completely safe in a strong majority alliance. At the merge, David recreates the Strong 5, then the Strong 6, bringing Mary in, and she is in the majority from the swap all the way to the Chrissy boot. The leader of the alliance, making him believe that David is flipping, and Mary is the only one that got into the alliance due to David, they decide to blindside them both, and Mary is back on the bottom for the rest of the game. The only difference is that Mitch didn't realize he was on the bottom of the original Siva, and was blindsided when Charity went home at the merge, but Mary not only recognized her position in the game, but she was able to fix it. Even when she was blindsided by the David vote, she attempts to flip the game with Star and Mitch, but Mitch's reluctance to leave the status quo keeps the game from changing, and Mary leaves soon after Star. We don't get enough players in the new era who are people who have barely seen the show, and casting people like David Keane is what we need more of. David seemed arrogant to me preseason, but his personality and confidence really grows on you almost immediately. David was on the top of all 3 of his tribes once he joined them, if it was original Siva, Swap Logi, or the new Unite tribe. He controlled them all, up until Kyle flips the game on David, sending him to the jury. David had the right sense as well when Kyle was acting odd around him, and Kyle was way too hesitant on voting Camille out when she was a clear, easy target for the Strong Six to get rid of. And David knew the 2 of them were in a secret alliance because of Kyle's behavior. Joe, Shaheen, Eva, no one picked this up, but David did right away. David also clearly has challenge prowess, with him being really good at the individual challenges and the tribal ones. David on both his Siva and his Swap Logi tribe never went to tribal council, and we could probably put some of that onto him. David is a little too confident though, not managing his threat level well post-merge, and he blatantly exposed his strategy and how he felt to the people on the bottom when he felt like he was empowered and safe, which in cause also makes him horrible at jury management. I expected David to get to the end of the game, but I also figured he wouldn't get that many votes and would have had a very angry jury making sure he'd lose. Instead, David is sent to the jury prematurely, and we lose a great character way too soon. Demi is one of the most surprising third place finishers, up next to Amanda from Survivor China and Xander from Survivor 41, and that's Joe Hunter, the man with the bronze tier game that was just spray painted gold by the edit. Joe was a powerhouse on every drive he was on, and he did run the game, or at least was the face of it. Joe was never at risk of being voted out, with him only ever having his name written down once, and that was by Mary, as she was unanimously voted out and sent to the jury. We should have seen how Joe would have placed third when Mary, the person we actively see Joe try to work and have jury management with, before she exits the game, and it's horrible and blatant, and Mary feels offended he tries such bad gameplay on her. This makes sense when, even though he literally was trying to butter her up for a jury vote, Joe instead gets Mary's in-game vote to send a message before walking out of tribal council. Joe was completely dominant in challenges though, and he was the key component for a lot of votes, with people approaching him during the Chrissy vote, needing him for David's swing vote, and though they were tricking Joe into voting out his closest ally in Shaheen, they needed Joe again to be the swing vote against either Kyle or Shaheen there. Joe was the swing vote again, having all the power on who he wanted to send to the jury. Joe plays a dominant game with people needing him the whole time, but he also plays a game that he keeps calling as based on loyalty and integrity, when in Survivor, you get your hands dirty no matter what you do, and not owning to it will always cause you to lose just like Joe did. Joe's a strong player and a people magnet, but he is not the best player on this season. When talking about the Logie 3, it's odd that the person with the worst edit probably had the best chance of winning, and that's Shaheen Davari. Shaheen seemed to have the messiest game of the 3 and the worst edit. With an example like Joe nowhere in sight when Shaheen and Thomas go through Kyle's bag and miss the idol that's in there, and Shaheen is the one with the recorded shocked face when Thomas is idled out the game. Shaheen is then targeted by Chrissy at the merge for being one of the strong players, even though those players were clearly stronger than him. And Kyle and Camilla are always secretly targeting him and weaving a narrative in Joe's mind that Shaheen's gonna flip. Shaheen was never gonna flip, in fact. And though the edit would have you believe otherwise, it was most likely true that if Shaheen got to the end with Joe or Eva, then Shaheen most likely would receive most of the jury votes due to his connection with the jury that even Joe didn't have. Joe is also the face of the group, and Joe and Eva were such a clear duo at similar games that it'd be easier for the jury to vote on Shaheen's separate game alone, and the fact that Shaheen has a close relationship with all of them. If it had all gone to plan, and there weren't two members of Siva who were better than Shaheen, then the original Logie 3 would have made it to the end, and Shaheen probably wins. I'm shocked I have this player this high, but they got second place and they deserve the bronze spot for the Season 48 player ranking, and that's Eva. In poker, you can run hot, getting dealt good hands and boards and being lucky. And Eva got that in Survivor essentially. She got put onto the original Strong Logie tribe that never went to Premier Tribal Council, then put on the swapped Strong Logie tribe that never went to Tribal Council, then was indoctrinated into the Strong 6 and put into a majority alliance for the rest of the game. Eva also went on to almost, if not every food reward, fueling herself constantly, and found, won, and was gifted idols and advantages. To finally top it off, she got the Sam treatment for Survivor 47, and the Survivor gods blessed her in the Force Final 4 fire making when she was losing to Camilla, and finally made a comeback out of nowhere and pulled through when it seemed like it was impossible. Eva was just running hot all season, but in doing so, she was a power player. I do believe that Shaheen or the next two players beat her in a jury vote, and we see one of these three do it, so I know this is at least partially true. But Eva still might always get those two jury votes she received from Star and Mary no matter what, and Eva's name was never written down till the end of the game to win, so she deserves a spot. There are only two players left, and the winner is getting the number 1 spot, so the second best player of Survivor 48 was Camilla. If you didn't know, Cal and Camilla formed a secret alliance, and it was the Powerhouse Alliance either navigated their own vote or were able to hide themselves by just voting with the Majority Alliance and dragging that Majority Alliance to the end so they knew they could beat them. Camilla, though weak and horrible at most challenges, was not going to be the first boot on a 6-person tribe, and most likely wasn't even going to be the second boot either. On the swap, Kyle and Camilla are swap screwed onto New Vrula with the 3 California girls dominating them, and she still isn't even the target for that round. Kyle is. During this round, Camilla has the amazing idea as well to play it off like Camilla and Kyle hate each other, so the original Logie wouldn't know they were plotting to idle out one of the California girls out later. She does mess up and freeze and admit to not knowing how to act when Shaheen and Thomas start going through Kyle's bag right in front of her, which would be a dead giveaway that she is helping Kyle, not them, by also not aggressively attacking the bag. But they weren't paying enough attention to notice her reluctance, let alone even find the idol that was hiding in there. Luckily for them, Thomas didn't play the steal vote that round, because it would have negated the purpose of the idol and the extra vote that Kyle and Camilla played, and would have sent one of them home, but that's nothing that they control, and they played that round perfectly, advantage-wise and socially. Camilla then openly forms an alliance with the remaining California girls and Kyle, keeping her safe for the majority of the merge once it comes. Camilla is only ever a target during the round that David guns for her, and Chrissy goes out that round anyways. Camilla wins the game if Kyle had lost Final 4 immunity and fire making and winds up on the jury, since he would have done his lawyer thing and argued for her like she did for him. But she is below Kyle for 2 reasons. The first is that if they're both sitting at Final Tribal Council, I think Kyle wins over her, because he was the face of their alliance, and also, for the second reason, he did most of the legwork. Camilla survives the David round gunning for her due to Kyle defending her and plotting against his alliance with David to keep his secret alliance with Camilla secure. Camilla played a great strategic game, and she helped guide the way for the two of them to get where they got, but Kyle was the person in front the whole time. Last but not least is the winner of this season, Kyle Fraser, the guy I said was too nice to win Survivor. Kyle was really nice. We saw this when Kyle disqualified himself during the one-on-one challenge against Kevin in episode 1 and decided to help Kevin complete his own challenge for the sake of it, and Kyle seemed to grow a connection with everyone he came across with. Where the first time he wasn't safe, Camille and him played the California girls like fools, and then idled Thomas out by making him feel comfortable enough to not play his advantage. And then he forms an alliance with those very same people the morning after to secure his position during the merge. Kyle and Camilla then start to vote out all the obvious targets that aren't a part of the Strong Six, just dwindling down the other players so there's only the Strong Six that they know they can beat at Final Tribal Council anyways, up until David throws a wrench into that plan. David could tell that Kyle is too hesitant about even mentioning the idea of voting out Camilla, and David tries to convince everyone that there's something going on between the two of them, and this is a turning point for Kyle's game. All Kyle had to do here was manipulate Joe, the face of the game, the guy who values honor and loyalty, to believe that David is about to flip and throw the notion of honor and loyalty into the trash, and Joe will have none of that, and it works, and David is voted out that round. This is a turning point of the game since Kyle just realized that he has a one-punch knockout tool in his arsenal now. After navigating the David boot, Kyle and Camilla go back to hiding, voting with the majority until Camilla wins immunity, and it seems like there's only two options on the table at that moment, either Kyle or Shaheen to go home. And what does Kyle do that round? He goes up to Joe and says that Shaheen is going to take that notion of honor and loyalty and throw it in the trash, and Joe is going to have none of that, and decides to boot out his second closest ally and someone who is going to take Joe to the end as well. It's like Russell in Heroes vs. Villains. Just get him paranoid. Say Coach is gunning for him when he isn't, and Coach is gone. Say Danielle is trying to get him voted out when she actually wants to go to the final 3 with Russell, and I guess Danielle is going to the jury that same episode. Some players get so paranoid that you can just use their fear to your advantage, and Kyle did just that. Kyle also recognizes that his and Camilla's game are too similar, and they both can handily beat Joe and Eva, especially if one of them is on the jury advocating for the other. So the final round shows a secret alliance becoming arch rivals, as they both race to be the only one at the Final Tribal Council, and Kyle's victorious in this. Kyle's Final Tribal Council speech is strong too, showing humility at points, while also owning to his game and communicating overwhelming confidence during the moves that he knows were game-winning moves that got him to Final 3. Kyle wins the season in a 5-2-1 vote, and he handily deserves it. Well, that's all the player rankings for Survivor 48 from worst to best. Thank you everybody who stuck around to watch this. Please leave a like and subscribe if you want more Survivor content just like this coming up. Everybody grab your torches. I'll see you in the next one.